The screech of tires echoed through the empty road as a massive truck came to a grinding halt, mere inches from tragedy. In the middle of the asphalt, a scruffy mother cat stood frozen, shielding her 3 trembling cubs under her body. The smallest kitten let out a frightened meow, breaking the deafening silence. The driver's eyes widened in horror, his hands trembling. On the wheel, a bystander dropped their groceries, sprinting toward the scene, shouting desperately. Time seemed to stand still as the world held its breath. Would this brave mother's fight to protect her cubs end in heartbreak? The early morning light painted the road in hues of orange and gold. The distant hum of vehicles created a soft, rhythmic symphony, occasionally broken by the piercing cry of a crow. Life in the small suburban area was just starting to awaken. Shopkeepers were lifting their shutters, morning joggers were making their rounds, and the occasional car zipped through the otherwise peaceful streets. On the side of this bustling road, hidden among the tall grass near the pavement, a mother cat stirred. She was a scruffy tabby, with patches of matted fur and eyes that spoke of resilience. Her 3 cubs, barely a few weeks old, huddled close to her for warmth. They meowed softly, tiny voices rising in hunger and curiosity. The mother cat stretched her body, her sharp ears twitching as she surveyed the surroundings. She knew it was time to move. The spot they had been sheltering in for days was no longer safe. The noise of vehicles had grown louder, and the scent of predators lingered nearby. The mother nudged her cubs gently, one by one, urging them to follow her. Reluctantly, the tiny creatures stumbled to their feet, their movements clumsy but determined. As they stepped out of their hiding place, the mother paused, her sharp instincts warning her of the danger ahead. Across the wide, grey road lay another patch of grass that promised safety, a temporary haven where her little ones could rest. But crossing the road was a gamble, a risk she had to take for the sake of her cubs. The morning traffic began to pick up. Trucks, motorcycles, and cars sped by, their wheels whizzing dangerously close to the edge of the road. The mother cat waited, her body tense, her eyes scanning for an opportunity. Her cubs mewed behind her, their tiny frames trembling from fear and fatigue. Finally, a moment of quiet emerged, a brief lull in the chaos of moving vehicles. The mother cat seized the chance. She darted forward, her cubs stumbling behind her, their tiny paws barely making it over the rough asphalt. They were halfway across when the sound of a roaring engine pierced the air. A massive truck came into view, barreling down the road at high speed. The mother cat froze, her instincts screaming at her to protect her cubs. She turned, crouching low, spreading her body wide to shield her little ones. The truck driver slammed on the brakes, the screech of tires echoing like a desperate scream. Onlookers watched in horror as the scene unfolded, their breaths caught in their throats. The truck's front tire loomed dangerously close to the tiny family. The world seemed to pause, suspended in a fragile moment of fate. Would the mother cat's courage and determination be enough to save her and her cubs from imminent danger, or would this be a heartbreaking end to her unwavering fight for survival? The stage was set for an extraordinary story of survival, hope, and the lengths a mother would go to protect her young. The mother cat assesses the growing danger. With vehicles speeding by and her cubs trembling in fear, she realizes staying put is no longer an option. She eyes the patch of grass across the road, a haven of safety, but the sheer width of the road looms as a daunting challenge. Her maternal instincts push her forward. The cubs sense her resolve, but hesitate, their tiny bodies trembling at the sound of roaring engines, she gently nudges them forward, using soft purrs to reassure them. The road is quiet for a momentarily. So when the mother seizes the opportunity, they venture out, paws tapping hesitantly on the asphalt, but the silence doesn't last. In the distance, the low rumble of an approaching truck shakes the ground. The tension is immediate and palpable. She quickly ushers her cubs back to the edge of the road, her heart racing. The moment to cross has to be perfectly timed, but time is something she doesn't have much of. The mother cat decides to try again. This time, she leads the way confidently, hoping her cubs will follow. They start across, but just as they make it halfway, the sound of a speeding car fills the air. The headlights flash ominously as the car barrels toward them. Panicking, the cubs scatter in different directions. The smallest one freezes in the middle of the road, paralyzed by fear. The mother cat, torn between her cubs, darts back and forth, her instincts screaming at her to protect all of them. The driver honks, swerves, and narrowly misses them, but the danger is far from over. The smallest cub is still stranded, his tiny form a stark contrast against the dark asphalt. The mother cat darts back into the road, her heart pounding, and grabs him by the scruff just in time. Breathing heavily, she returns to the roadside with her cubs, now more shaken than ever. The danger feels insurmountable, but the mother cat knows she must try again. Just as she begins to strategize her next move, a new threat emerges. A stray dog, lean and hungry, appears from a nearby alley. Its eyes lock onto the mother and her cubs, its predatory instincts kicking in. The mother cat immediately arches her back, her fur bristling as she hisses loudly. The cubs huddle behind her, their tiny bodies trembling. The dog growls low and takes a step closer, but the mother doesn't back down. She lunges forward, swiping at the air to keep the dog at bay. The standoff escalates as the dog circles them, searching for a weak spot. The mother knows she can't fight it and protect her cubs at the same time. She needs a distraction. Spotting a loose piece of trash nearby, she pounces on it and flings it toward the dog. Startled, the dog pauses, just long enough for her to gather her cubs and retreat further into the roadside grass. The dog eventually loses interest, distracted by a noise in the distance, but the mother cat knows they aren't safe. The incident only adds to the urgency of crossing the road before more predators or vehicles appear. Amidst the rising tension, a glimmer of hope arrives. A human, jogging along the sidewalk, notices the stranded family. He pauses, his expression softening as he observes the mother cat and her cubs. The mother cat is wary, her instincts urging her to keep her distance, but the man crouches down, speaking softly, and tosses a small piece of food toward them. The cubs sniff the air, their hunger drawing them closer. The man recognizes their predicament and looks at the road. He steps out carefully, waving his arms to slow down an oncoming car. The mother cat watches intently, her instincts battling her trust. When the man steps back, she decides to make her move. Slowly, cautiously, she guides her cubs toward him, keeping a watchful eye on his every movement, with the man helping to clear the way. The first part of their crossing feels a little safer. The man gestures for the mother cat to cross, but just as she starts, a loud horn blares in the distance. A massive truck barrels down the road, its size and speed shaking the ground. The man steps back, signaling her to wait, but the mother cat knows she doesn't have much time. She seizes the moment when the truck passes and dashes forward, her cubs following close behind, the first to make it across safely. But the third cub trips on a piece of debris. The mother turns back, her heart pounding, and picks him up by the scruff. As she makes her final dash, another vehicle appears, a motorcycle this time, speeding. Recklessly, the man shouts, waving his arms to slow it down, but the bike doesn't stop. The mother cat leaps forward, narrowly, avoiding the speeding motorcycle. She lands on the other side of the road, her cubs safe beside her. Breathing heavily, the mother cat collapses in the grass, her cubs huddling around her. The man watches from across the road, relieved but hesitant to approach. He knows the mother cat is still wary of him, but he places another piece of food nearby before walking away. The mother cat surveys her surroundings, finally feeling a sense of safety. The grassy patch offers cover and quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos of the road. She licks her cubs, reassuring them and herself that the worst is over. The cubs, still trembling but beginning to relax, nestle against her warmth. The mother cat gazes at the road, her sharp eyes scanning for any remaining threats. The journey was harrowing, but she knows it was necessary. Her instincts had guided her, and her courage had carried them through. As the sun sets, casting a warm glow over the landscape, the mother cat allows herself a moment of rest. The road is behind them, and for now, they are safe. But her instincts remain sharp, always ready for the next challenge. The road grows eerily quiet. The rumbling engines of passing vehicles have ceased, leaving a temporary silence that feels almost unnatural. The mother cat glances nervously at her cubs, who are beginning to calm down, their tiny bodies nestling close to her in the grass. She seizes the opportunity. The lull in traffic might be her only chance to get her family to safety. Her sharp eyes scan the horizon, looking for any sign of movement. The other side of the road is a sanctuary, a haven of tall grass and trees where the cubs will be safe from predators and traffic. She nudges the first cub, encouraging it to move. The little one hesitates, its tiny legs wobbling. It steps onto the asphalt. Slowly, the mother leads the way, her ears twitching at every faint noise. It seems safe for now, but just as the second cub follows, the faint rumble of a large vehicle breaks the silence. The sound is distant but unmistakable. The mother cat freezes, her heart pounding. The rumble grows louder, vibrating through the ground beneath her paws. The cubs huddle closer together, their wide eyes reflecting her rising fear. The mother cat quickly ushers them back to the edge of the road, her tail wrapping protectively around them. In the distance, the source of the noise becomes visible, a massive truck, its headlights cutting through the dimming light of the late afternoon. It's moving fast, and the roar of its engine drowns out every other sound. The truck seems impossibly large, a behemoth against a tiny, vulnerable family on the roadside. Its tires churn up dust and debris as it barrels down the road, a machine of unstoppable force. The mother cat's instincts scream at her tact, but the options are limited. She glances at her cubs, their tiny bodies trembling against her. They don't understand the danger, but they feel her tension. One of them lets out a tiny, frightened mew, and the mother cat licks its head to calm it. The truck grows closer with every passing second. Its shadow stretches across the road, reaching toward the cats like a predator, closing in on its prey. The mother cat's mind races. She knows the truck's speed leaves no room for error. If she attempts to cross now, she risks everything, but staying put is equally dangerous. The road is no place for her cubs, and the grassy patch they're hiding in is too exposed to predators and the elements. She calculates the distance to the other side. It feels impossibly far. The truck's roar intensifies, a deafening reminder of the peril she knows she has to time her move perfectly. The cubs cling to her. They're tiny, mews growing louder as the truck's approach shakes the ground. She nudges them further back into the grass, but they resist, their instinct to stay close to her overpowering their fear of the noise. The truck's headlights are now blinding, illuminating every blade of grass around them. The driver doesn't see the family on the roadside, to focused on the road ahead. The mother cat arches her back, her body a shield between her cubs and the monstrous vehicle. Her ears flatten against her head as the truck's horn blares, a sound that seems to pierce the very air around them. It's now or never. She has to act. As the truck closes in, the mother cat makes her move. She picks up the smallest cub by the scruff of its neck and darts forward. Her movements are swift and calculated, but the sheer size of the road stretches out before her like an endless expanse. The cub dangles helplessly from her mouth, its small body swaying with each stride. The other cubs watch from the roadside, their tiny faces filled with fear and confusion. The mother cat reaches the halfway point and sets the cub down momentarily, panting from the effort. The truck is almost upon them now, the sound of its engine a deafening roar. The mother cat's eyes dart to the other cubs, who are still huddled on the roadside. She knows she has to go back for them, but time is running out. The truck's horn blares again, louder, this time as the driver finally catches sight of her in the middle of the road. The mother cat doesn't flinch. Her focus is unshakable. She picks up the cub again and sprints the rest of the way, reaching the other side just as the truck hurtles past. The force of the truck's passage creates a gust of wind that ripples through the grass. The mother cat crouches low, shielding the cub with her body. She doesn't allow herself a moment to rest. The other cubs are still on the roadside, and the truck isn't the only danger they face. The driver doesn't stop. The truck disappears down the road, its roar fading into the distance. But the mother cat doesn't look back. Her focus is entirely on her remaining cubs. She darts back across the road, her body a blur of fur and determination. The second cub is already inching toward her, its tiny paws stepping hesitantly onto the asphalt. She meets it halfway, nudging it gently but firmly toward the other side. The third cub, however, is paralyzed with fear. It doesn't move, its small body trembling as it stares at the empty road. The mother cat rushes back to it, her heart pounding. She picks it up and begins the journey back across, her muscles aching but her resolve unyielding. As she reaches the other side with the last cub, she collapses into the grass, her body heaving with exhaustion. But her cubs are safe for now. That's all that matters. The truck barrels closer, its headlights casting long, ominous shadows across the road. The ground vibrates under the massive vehicle's weight, and its deafening roar drowns out all other sounds. The mother cat, perched on the roadside, watches with unblinking eyes. Her cubs huddle beneath her, trembling, their tiny bodies pressing tightly against her for warmth and safety. The massive truck feels like a creature from a nightmare, a mechanical predator with no awareness of the fragile lives just feet from its path. The driver, high up in the cab, is focused on the road ahead, oblivious to the small family hidden in the grass. For the mother cat, the stakes have never been higher. Her body tenses, her instincts on full alert, her ears twitch at the subtle changes in sound, her whiskers quivering as if sensing the air's shift. She knows she has only moments to act before the truck is upon them. The cubs let out soft, frightened mews, sensing their mother's tension. She crouches low, her tail flicking Nervously, time feels frozen and impossibly fast all at once. The truck is nearly there, and the moment of decision looms. In a burst of courage, the mother cat darts forward, her body low to the ground, her movement swift and precise. She picks up one of her cubs by the scruff, its tiny paws dangling helplessly as she steps onto the road. The asphalt feels cold beneath her pads, but she pushes forward, her eyes locked on the other side. But just as she reaches the center of the road, the truck's headlights hit her directly, blinding her momentarily. The roar of the engine crescendos, filling her ears and rattling her resolve. She freezes for a split second, the cub swinging lightly in her jaws. The driver catches a glimpse of movement, but doesn't register what it is. He blows the horn, a thunderous blast that echoes across the open road. The sound jolts the mother cat, her instincts screaming at her to retreat, but she's too far in to turn back. The truck's tires rumble closer, the massive vehicle bearing down. With terrifying speed, the horn blares again, and the vibrations shake the ground beneath her. The cub lets out a frightened squeak, its tiny body trembling in her grip, summoning every ounce of strength and courage. The mother cat sprints the last few steps to the other side. She places the cub safely in the tall grass, licking its head to calm it. But there's no time to rest. Her other cubs are still on the roadside, and the truck shows no signs of slowing. The mother cat darts back across the road, her heart pounding in her chest. The truck's shadow looms over her, stretching across the asphalt like a giant predator. Her movements are frantic but controlled, every muscle in her body working in unison as she races to save her family. The second cub has crept forward, its tiny paws resting on the edge of the road. It looks up at its mother with wide, trusting eyes, oblivious to the danger that threatens to engulf them both. The mother cat nudges the cub back into the grass, shielding it with her body as the truck bears down on them. The driver now sees the small, moving forms in the road, but has little time to react. He slams on the brakes, the tires screeching against the asphalt. The smell of burnt rubber fills the air, mingling with the deafening roar of the engine. The mother cat grabs the second cub and sprints across the road, her legs burning with the effort. The truck is so close now that she can feel the heat from the engine, the sound of the tires deafening. She reaches the other side just as the truck skids past, its massive tires missing her by mere inches. The force of its passage creates a gust of wind that ripples through her fur and scatters the grass. She collapses into the dirt, panting, the cub safely nestled beside her. But her task isn't over. The final cub is still on the roadside, frozen in fear. Its tiny body trembles, its wide eyes staring at the massive truck that now looms just feet away. The mother cat watches in horror, her heart sinking as she realizes the cub hasn't moved. The truck driver, panicked, attempts to steer the vehicle away, but the road is narrow, and the truck's momentum is unstoppable. The horn blares again, louder than before, a sound that feels like it's tearing through the very fabric of the world. The mother cat doesn't hesitate. She sprints back onto the road, her body a blur of motion. The truck is so close now that she can see the driver's face, his expression one of shock and desperation. The massive tires churn toward her, their black rubber gleaming under the harsh headlights. She reaches the cub just as the truck's shadow engulfs them both. Time seems to slow as she grabs the cub by the scruff and turns back toward the grass. Her legs move on pure instinct, her mind focused solely on getting to safety. The truck passes with a deafening roar, its tires skimming so close to the mother Cat that she can feel the rush of air against her fur. She leaps the final few feet to the safety of the grass, the cub dangling from her jaws. The truck hurtles down the road, its taillights fading into the distance. The driver, shaken, glances in his rearview mirror, unsure of what just happened, but the mother cat isn't thinking about him. Her focus is entirely on her cubs, who are now all safe on the other side of the road. She places the final cub down and collapses beside her family, her body heaving with exhaustion. The cubs nuzzle against her, their soft mews a comfort after the chaos of the last few minutes. The mother cat licks each cub in turn, reassuring them and herself that they are safe. The danger has passed, but the memory of the truck's approach lingers in her mind, a stark reminder of how close they came to disaster. For now, the family is together, and that's all that matters. The mother cat closes her eyes, her body curling protectively around her cubs as the night settles in. The night air feels thick, pressing against the mother cat's fur as she crouches in the tall grass, her body still trembling from the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Her cubs press tightly against her, their tiny bodies warm and fragile. She licks them, each in turn, her rough tongue running over their soft fur in a desperate attempt to calm them. But even as she soothes them, her own heart pounds erratically, refusing to settle. The ground is still warm from the truck's tires, and the scent of burnt rubber lingers in the air, mixing with the faint metallic tang of asphalt. The road stretches out like a dark river, silent now that the truck has disappeared into the distance. But the danger is far from over. Her mind races. She knows they can't stay here. The road is too dangerous, and the brush too thin to offer proper shelter. The cubs are weak, exhausted from the ordeal, and there is no food nearby. The mother cat flicks her ears, listening intently for any other threats. The night is full of sounds: chirping crickets, the rustling of leaves, distant howls, but one sound stands out: a low, deliberate movement through the grass. Something is watching them. The mother cat stiffens, her instincts flaring. Her ears twitch as she pinpoints the source of the sound. It's coming from the other side of the road, where the shadows stretch longer, where the darkness seems thicker, heavier. A shape moves slow, deliberate, not the hurried scurrying of a rat or the graceful gliding of an owl. This is something larger, something dangerous. Her body tenses, her fur standing on end. She lowers herself further into the grass, her tail curling protectively around her cubs, the cubs sensing her change in posture, instinctively fall silent. Their tiny breaths are the only sound she can hear now, aside from the creeping movement in the shadows. Then a pair of eyes, yellow, glowing, watching a predator. The mother cat's breath catches. The scent hits her neck's musky, thick with the unmistakable scent of hunger. A fox. It has been watching them, waiting. The truck may have passed, but now an entirely new danger has emerged, and this one is patient. The fox doesn't charge, it simply waits, studying her, assessing the situation. It knows she's fast, but it also knows she's outnumbered. Her cubs are vulnerable, unable to run far, and it is hungry. The mother cat's mind races. Running isn't an option, not with the cubs. Too weak to flee, fighting is equally dangerous. A fox is larger, stronger, its jaws capable of crushing bone. She needs to outsmart it. Slowly, she moves her body in front of her cubs, shielding them as much as she can. Her tail flicks, a warning signal to the fox. She knows the language of the wild, silent threats. Calculated movements. She arches her back slightly, her fur puffing out to make herself appear larger. Her sharp green eyes lock onto the fox's glowing yellow ones, unblinking, unwavering. The fox hesitates, tilting its head. It wasn't expecting this. Prey usually runs, prey usually cowers. The mother cat lets out a low, guttural growl. It's deep, primal, vibrating through her chest, a sound she has never made before. A sound that says, "I will fight to the death." The fox steps forward, testing her resolve. The mother cat does not move. Another step. She growls louder this time, baring her teeth. Her muscles are coiled, ready to spring if needed. The fox licks its lips, eyes flickering to the cubs. The mother cat hisses loud, sharp. The fox stops. A tense standoff begins, both creatures frozen in time, calculating their next move. The mother cat knows she can't hold this position forever. The fox is patient. It will wait for her to tire, for her to make a mistake. She glances at her cubs. They are too young to understand the danger, their tiny eyes blinking up at her. With innocent trust, she must act now. Then, an idea, a risky one. She lets out another hiss, louder. This time, taking a daring step forward. The fox flinches slightly good. She takes another step, then another, forcing the fox to take a cautious step back. It's surprised. This is not how small creatures behave. Then, she makes her move. With a sudden burst of speed, she lunges not at the fox, but toward the road. The fox, startled, instinctively, follows her movement, momentarily distracted. At that exact moment, a distant rumbling begins. Another truck, the vibrations ripple through the ground. And the mother cat darts back into the grass just as headlights flood the road. The fox, caught in its own miscalculation, hesitates a second too long. The truck roars past, kicking up dust and wind. When it clears, the fox is gone. Whether it ran or was hit, the mother cat doesn't know. She doesn't care. She turns back to her cubs, pressing her nose to each one, reassuring herself that they are safe, for now, but the night is not over. The mother cat knows they cannot stay here. The road is too dangerous. The fox may return, and the cubs need shelter. Lifting the smallest cub, she begins the journey, slipping into the tall grass, heading toward the unknown. The night is silent once more, but the tension lingers, wrapping around them like a shadow. She doesn't know what lies ahead. She only knows one thing. She will fight for them. She will protect them, no matter what. The mother cat moves cautiously through the tall grass, her body low, her ears twitching at every sound. The near-death encounter with the truck still lingers in her mind, but there is no time to dwell on fear. Her cubs need shelter. They need safety, but she doesn't know where to go. Then, a sound, faint at first, but growing louder, the distinct crunch of gravel beneath tires. She stops, her muscles tensing, ready to bolt. The light of approaching headlights cuts through the darkness, illuminating the field around her. She freezes, her eyes wide, her heart pounding. A vehicle slows to a stop just beyond the road. The rumbling engine hums softly, then dies. A door creaks open. Footsteps crunch on the ground. A voice, gentle, cautious, guts through the silence. "Oh no, look at that." The mother cat's ears perk. She remains hidden, unsure whether to trust. Another voice, softer, female. "There's a cat and kittens right by the road." A flashlight beam sweeps across the field, its glow landing just feet away. The mother cat flattens her body further, shielding her cubs. Then, she hears it, a soft, familiar sound, a gentle clicking of a tongue, a sound humans make when calling an animal. The mother cat's instincts scream at her to run. She is seeing what humans can do. Some chase, some throw objects. Some are simply indifferent. She doesn't know these humans. She doesn't trust them, but her cubs, they are weak, tired. They cannot go much further. She looks down at them, three tiny bodies curled into her warmth, their little stomachs rising and falling with each breath. They will not last another night without food, without rest. The voice comes again, softer this time. It's okay, girl. We're not going to hurt you. A rustling noise, a bag opening. The scent of something strong, something familiar, drifts toward her. Food. The mother cat's stomach clenches painfully. It has been too long since she last ate. Her body is drained from protecting her cubs, from running, from fighting off danger. Her resolve weakens as the smell intensifies. Then, the woman kneels, placing something on the ground, a small, round object. The scent fills the air. Tuna. The mother cat's tail twitches. It is a test. She knows this, but hunger is a powerful thing. She takes a cautious step forward, her eyes locked onto the humans. Ready to retreat at the slightest movement, the humans do not move. They simply wait. The mother cat creeps forward, her paws silent on the dirt. The scent of tuna is overpowering now, making her mouth water despite her instincts screaming at her to stop. She reaches the food and sniffs cautiously. It is fresh, safe. A quick glance at the humans, still and moving, still waiting. She takes a bite. The rich taste floods her mouth, and she swallows quickly, another bite following. Her body aches for sustenance. She eats faster, her hunger momentarily overriding her fear. Then she stops. Her cubs. She turns sharply, looking back at them. They remain where she left them, huddled in the grass, their tiny eyes flickering. Between her and the strangers, they are too small, too weak to come forward on their own. The woman seems to understand. Slowly, she reaches into a small bag, pulling out a towel. It's okay, she whispers. We'll help you. The mother cat tenses as the woman moves closer. Every instinct tells her to flee, to run with her cubs, but she is tired, so very tired. The woman carefully scoops up the first kitten, wrapping it in the soft towel. The tiny creature doesn't resist. It is too weak. The second follows, then the third. The mother cat's heart pounds, but she does not run. She follows. She watches as the woman gently places them into a small, open crate lined with another soft towel. They mew softly, sensing warmth and security. For the first time in days, the mother cat hesitates for only a moment before stepping in beside them. The door closes softly. The humans smile. You're safe now. The crate is lifted carefully, placed inside the vehicle. The mother cat doesn't panic. The scent of her cubs is all around her. They're tiny, bodies pressed close. The vehicle rumbles to life, and for the first time in days, she feels something unexpected. Relief. The humans speak softly as they drive. Their voices calm, reassuring. The woman turns back, smiling gently. You're going to be okay, sweetheart. We'll get you somewhere warm. The mother cat doesn't understand the words, but she understands the tone. There is no threat, no anger, only kindness. The ride is smooth, the warmth of the car lulling her into a state of exhaustion. Her body relaxes slightly, her eyes growing heavy. Her cubs are safe. For the first time since the journey began, she closes her eyes. The shelter is warm, quiet. The mother cat watches as her cubs are gently examined, wrapped in soft blankets, fed carefully by kind hands. She's given food, water, a safe place to rest. Days pass. The cubs grow stronger. She no longer flinches at the sight of humans. Then, one day, the woman kneels beside her, stroking her fur. Someone wants to take you home. The mother cat blinks up at her. She does not understand, But when she sees the small, safe house, the soft bed, the loving arms waiting to hold her cubs, she knows they have found a home. They are safe. Finally.